Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning. Oh my gosh. Wait, what the hell? Okay, so first of all, I don't have my lights on. And second of all, my camera is not. Hold on. Oh, there we go. Oh, there we go. Hey, and sound. Guys, welcome to what I expect to be a very tense options expiration Friday. We've got a pretty decent amount of gamma to roll off. It's been hard fought, and I think that I don't know about today. We could end up getting pinned if they don't have any significant moves here this morning. But then I would also expect to see some increased volatility next week. So let's go to our charts and take inventory of where the market has been overnight. Coming to the treasuries, we had a bit of a fall yesterday, retracing some of that big move that we had 2 days ago in the extension overnight. And we have had a continuation of that move down over here. All of the central banks continue to speak very hawkishly. And the big question in my mind is, will they be able to continue to do that after the March meeting? Because like Google is laying off 15,000 people now, that like 6% of their workforce, which is crazy. And you know what? I don't know if they'll hire all those people back when things get good again. Like, some of these tech companies were way overstaffed, and some of those jobs aren't coming back, I think. Coming back to the S&P 500 yesterday, they tried to pull out a win, and I guess they did. You know, it wasn't bad, but we're mostly where we were. Oil having a bit of a recovery though, so especially because China is reopening, there still looks like there's some hope in terms of like global growth and everything. Gold and silver, gold right back up at those highs, man. Silver not completely recovering, but still looking good. Copper, kind of middle of the road. And then we come over to our currencies. Bitcoin still sideways after that drama 2 days ago with the SEC enforcement, and the dollar still where it was, stuck at 102. But hey, 102 is better than 110, right? Am I right? I'm right. So oh, hey, you know what, should come back here because I restarted my machine and it re-switched my monitor. So does that mean that if I do this thing, yes, it does, it follows it correctly. All right, that's cool. All right, guys. So, for me, the problem I have here is I'm not 100% sure if the options expiration affects the treasuries too much. I think that if I wanted to go a direction, I would be leaning towards higher rates, but we didn't really move too much yesterday. And so I think we got to be wary about that happening again. It's a Friday. I don't like to take much risk on Fridays because I usually regret it. I've just been battered and beaten and, you know, have bad memories, let's say. Oh, Discord's got some new things here. Hold on a second. We're good. So I think I might be kind of pull back on doing too many trades today, but we might use this time to maybe try and prepare and memorize for the Series 65. So that should be fun. Let's see here what we got here. Just another person trying to join with a name that has characters that shouldn't be in there. Hold on. Let's come over here and see what they had. Unicode Inspector. Yep. Mathematical sans serif bold small u. It seems like when I did this, there was only like a dozen people on the Discord that had names like this. And so I was like, we'll do it. We'll deal with it. But it seems like it catches somebody trying to join now every day. And not all of them are people that actually should be banned. Good morning, my son. How are you doing? PIQ, Papyrus IQ saying Bank BOC, I think that's Bank of Canada, to raise rates by 25 basis points to peak of 4.5% on January 25th, according to a Reuters poll. Oh yes, well, so we do have Canadian retail sales here in 45 seconds, so let's prepare ourselves for that. We do have Feds Harker speaking at the top of the hour, and at 8 o'clock we have existing home sales. Trade a currency? I think that if there's anything to trade this morning, it's the S&P 500, man. You know, I don't want to change my setup to give myself like an order entry over here. But, you know, let's just kind of keep an eye on it. I feel like that the ES is kind of a crapshoot, but we could take some shots. Morning, David. How are you doing? Is this your first time on the stream? You might have been here earlier this weekend. I was just like ranting too much and too self-absorbed to notice, but we appreciate. Want to make sure that when we have new people in here that they understand what we're talking about, because I have a tendency to like just assume that everybody has been watching the whole time and knows where we're at. You think you want, well, okay, so 3,900 is like, oh man, why does Spotify do this? Give me the next one. There we go. Oh, you've been here a few times before. Okay, cool. And let's do the last one in the... Oops. There's this big block here at the end that for some reason I can't view. I don't know what's with that. Oh, yeah. Maybe I remember that. I think I remember that now. So we're getting some selling in the treasuries here after the news. Oh, sorry. I didn't even hear. So Canadian retail sales. Core retail sales month over month in line with expectations, but the headline retail sales down negative 0.1 versus an expected negative 0.5. So not as bad as anticipated. That's so good. Earnings over there. Starting to get the comments on YouTube that are like, you know, join my WhatsApp, blah, 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 blah. I thought YouTube got rid of them. Ooh, there's some stacks here. Okay, so this would be a good time to revisit our video on large orders and spoofing. And what do I say in that video? Well, you know, how do you know if it's a spoof or not? One of the things that I look for is like, is there really a good reason for them to be doing it? And if they're doing it like right at the beginning of the session and like nothing is supposed to be going on, it kind of makes me it doesn't kind of make me, it makes me very suspicious. We just saw like 3 stacks of about 1,000 lots or so at multiple prices there, off of news that was really not a very big deal in a market that is really not moving. That kind of reeks to me like somebody that's trying to coerce the market to go in a certain direction. So I do not want to get involved in that. I'm going to sit back and wait. Especially since we did see 2,556, 2,500 at 08. And look, they ticked up and the order disappeared. That, no thank you. No thank you. What are you saying? Is Stelio Contos a famous name or funny in some way? I'm out of the loop. Just wanted to say I really appreciate your value order flow and market microstructure videos. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, it's a character from American Dad. I gotcha. Oh, is that from American Dad? That's interesting because I thought that I had met you before that that show had come out but maybe not. Maybe you know, I don't pay attention to that sort of thing, so I wouldn't know the timeline. That's funny, man. That's the one that was like, we're talking about the show that was a spin-off. Well, not a spin-off per se, but it's kind of like Family Guy, right? Except for that the dad is super patriotic. Uzi is a contractor Roger hires. Oh. And Stelio Contos is Stan's childhood bully. Oh. That's funny, man. So, oh my gosh. No, wait. So, I really appreciate that you come in and say that, because I put a lot of work into those videos. I'm trying really hard to get this information out because I think it's very, very valuable both to traders and to society in general. And so it makes me so happy when people appreciate the content and understand the significance of it. Because the thing that I struggle with, and the thing that happened to me at first, was that I was kind of told some of these things by people at the bank, and I was just so green that I really did not understand the significance of them. Like somebody showed me the Almgren Chris paper, said this is kind of like the basis of what we do, and I didn't understand why it was a big deal, right? And so I was really trying to help people not make the mistake that I did and understand how that it can be very, very relevant to a retail trader and to society at large. So I appreciate it. So here's my confession. Since we're talking about cartoons. So I get on TikTok, and there's a lot of TikToks where like it'll be 2 screens, right? And one side of the screen will be like them doing a Minecraft jump course, and the other side of the screen will be some other content. In this case, Rick and Morty. And like I'd been familiar with the show, and all I knew about the show was the one clip where the robot asks what his purpose is, and he tells him that his job is to pass butter, and the robot is like, oh my god, right? That was the only thing I'd known from the show. And it kept showing me these freaking videos. And I don't know if it was that the show was so engaging, or if it was the Minecraft stuff at the bottom, because I find that kind of interesting. So I started watching it, and I really like the show. And I hate that I really like the show. I don't really know why. It's just like everybody says that they don't like, that the fandom for it sucks, I guess you could say. And I don't really understand why. I do kind of feel like that everybody wants something out of the show that I don't care about. So there's all these people that are like, oh, you know, it had all this opportunity to do this and that. And I'm like, who freaking cares about the larger overline story? Like every individual episode is like an interesting sci-fi scenario that's fun to watch. I'm only in the first season, but I like the show, but I kind of don't like that I like it. You know what I mean? So, and you know what? I liked American Dad too, but not enough to like sit and try and watch all of the episodes. But I thought it was freaking funny. Yeah, I'm only just now discovering Rick and Morty, right? It's been around for a while, right? The funny thing too is that like, so I'm like, okay, let's start watching it, and then the creator of it got like, I don't remember what the specifics were, but the creator of it got really in trouble for doing something really, really bad. It was like being abusive or something like that, like domestic abuse. Like it sounds like there's not going to be another season of Rick and Morty. Kind of surprising for a Reddit brain. I don't know, man. Like I can remember reading Reddit threads and people arguing about it on Reddit. I don't know, Reddit's been weird the last, I mean, this is just me. So like yesterday, I don't know why, but I made a bunch of posts on Reddit yesterday. But one of them was that there was another study that came out about gender transitioning. And people in the comments were criticizing the study for a lack of controls. It was basically like, here's people that got the treatment and then we followed them over time, and over time their mental health conditions improve. And people were saying, well, how do you know that it's not the case that people's mental health just tends to improve as they get older? Like there was no control in the study to compare against. And you know, and so I was kind of defending this guy and pointing out what is really necessary for like an empirical study, a enough verified enough empirical result to justify an across the board medical recommendation. And a lot of people agreed with me. Like I got a lot of upvotes from it. I expected that I was like going to be losing some karma there, and I think that I picked up like 50 upvotes. I was really shocked. He has another show called Solar Opposites. It's not terrible, but it's an acquired taste. Well, I like shows that well, there's two things about it that I like. The first thing is that I like the things that generate the dopamine, as in they're like very new and like wild, you know, left way out of left field. Like whatever the storyline is or whatever happens is like, how do these people come up with this stuff, right? I think that's what I like about South Park, man. They are so good, and they talk about this. They've given like seminars about this where they say, if you can ever in the story you hear yourself saying and then, and you can change it into like but sort of a thing, then that always results in a more interesting story. And I feel like, especially in movies, man, it's like the combination of Marvel and a bunch of, I feel like the storyline to every Marvel movie is the same. Some rich guy is being bad, and then, you know, they have to tear down the patriarchy, sort of thing. This is like every freaking movie. Or did I talk about this in Knives Out? Oh my gosh. I thought that the first Knives Out movie was really good, right? And when you're watching the second Knives Out movie, it's another one of those movies that's kind of good at fooling you into thinking it's good. It kind of fools you into thinking it's good because like the cinematography and just it's a polished movie. Like the people that made that movie are good at filmmaking. Okay, but the story is absolute trash, right? as soon as you know who made it and the politics of the person that made it, this is the same guy that made The Last Jedi, right? And is really kind of becoming known for injecting woke politics into his shows, right? Okay, so the whole premise is that a rich billionaire has invited a bunch of his friends to an island, right? That's the premise. And I'm not gonna like ruin. Well, I am gonna ruin it for you here, because like as soon as you know who it is, then who done it? You know that it's the rich billionaire. Come on, it's too easy. I know how the movie is gonna end just because of who wrote it, and that's lazy writing. That's lazy writing. And yeah, that's exactly what happens. Is in the end, the only other white male in the story dies, and the end of the story is, you know, a black guy and a couple of women turning on Elon Musk, and it literally is like, it literally turns into an Elon Musk hate fantasy, like you watched this is such a good show. What is it? Was that Quentin Tarantino movie about slavery, right? And oh man, how come I can't remember the name of that one? And actually a couple of Quentin Tarantino movies are like this, because Inglourious, Django Unchained, Inglourious Bastards is kind of like this too. It's like 90% of the movie is like kind of normal movie, really compelling characters, interesting storytelling, and then the end of it is just like pure fantasy. Like pure fantasy, what if we could just go in and massacre a bunch of Nazis or massacre a bunch of racists, sort of a thing, right? Okay. It was I mean, it wasn't like intended to be over the top like the Quentin Tarantino movies, but it kind of was serving the same sort of purpose. It's like a hate fantasy being acted out, except for in this show, it's a hate fantasy against Elon Musk being acted out, right? And I thought it was absolutely terrible. Because, well, for number one, I think this is just kind of childish and stupid to do that about Elon Musk, a person that's living and all that sort of stuff, and that it really hasn't. I mean, I understand that people have reasons to hate him, but like to put him on the same level of like creating a hate fantasy about him and is kind of low, I think. But not only that, but it's like, I feel like I've watched this movie a bunch of times, right? It's the same movie that I keep seeing in Marvel and all these other things. It's just that this time they kind of packaged it up in a mystery story. Yeah, hated it, right? So I like something that's new and unique, you know? I like it in my music too. Like the cool thing about electronic dance music is there's so much variety, and every song they will come up with some new instrument or a way of using the instrument that is just like wild and like, wow, how did they do that? That's so clever. It's the novelty bringing out the dopamine in your brain, and I love that. And a lot of people don't seek that in their media as much anymore. It seems like if you go the tried and familiar route, that tends to be more popular. But I like the things that are like, there's a lot of good electronic music. Yeah, there is. You know what, man? Every country has their good electronic music, right? Except with America, we don't necessarily have a style. What we do is we just take the styles that everybody else is coming out with and we just make it more, you know? But every country's got their something. Like the Swedish have Swedish techno, okay? The French have French house or disco house. That's Daft Punk, man. That's where Daft Punk came from. So good. Germany gave us trance, and Germany's also given us some really good techno right now. It's kind of the whole tech house thing is kind of what's going on right now. The UK, they tend to be a little bit more mellow, but right now they've got garage. Fred again, Man, that song by Fredigan and Skrillex that's all over the charts. Basically track of the year already. Like it's January, that's track of the year. Skrillex and Fredigan Rumble. Oh my gosh, that song is so effing good. Like if I was an MMA fighter, you know, and I was doing my entrance song, that is what I would be playing. It is so hype. So hype. Good stuff. The garage scene coming out of the UK is probably the most interesting space in electronic music right now. Yeah, it's good. And they're so good at combining the two things. Is like they have all of the elements that are kind of familiar. There's kind of like a pattern and a template that you use for the structure of your songs and everything. But then you throw in a new instrument or some new way of using a familiar kind of instrument. Or like, you know, they'll go and take a popular, famous song and they remix it. You know, that's electronic dance music. I love that. I love that. I don't understand why we don't see more of that in other media, but it always seems to be more of a niche thing. And I'm probably more interested in it because I'm ADHD, but I think it's good. And I think that that kind of ends up resulting in better media in general, just because the artists have to be more creative, you know? But so there's that element that I like, that they have that in Rick and Morty, where there's a lot of things where it's just like something really crazy will happen. And how did they come up with this? What Rick has an alien in his basement that he's like kidnapped and has all strapped up and everything. Like what? Okay. That was just kind of come out of nowhere. So that's fun about it. But the other thing that I like about it is that they're trying to do like really high, would I call it like highbrow science fiction scenarios, right? So like, what are some shows that kind of do that? Well, I think the ultimate show that's like this is Star Trek: The Next Generation, right? Every episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation is like some sort of interesting sci-fi scenario that either brings up interesting conundrums with certain hypothesized science, or even better, bring up interesting moral conundrums, right? Such a good man. Star Trek: The Next Generation is a legendary show. That's a show. I don't think that there's many TV shows like that. That is a show that like 100 years from now, people will still be watching. Star Trek: The Next Generation. Right? I don't know if people will be watching Rick and Morty 100 years from now, but it kind of has that element and I like it. I don't think that makes me like smarter than other people or anything. I think that's why people don't like Rick and Morty, is that the fan base gives off this impression that like, because I like it, I'm better than other people. But I kind of don't like that I like it, but I do like it. You know what else makes good music though, man? Is you got to dig into the emotions, man. I feel like that modern pop music has become so commercialized that it's just lost all soul. You know, part of it is getting older, that you just identify with the songs when you were a kid more. But I get songs coming out of the electronic dance music world that I identify with and like really bring out the feeling in me, you know, every day. And pop music just does not, I just do not identify with it at all. I think there's a lot of pop music that's just trash right now. The only reason that people listen to it is because familiarity, right? You play it so many times, you become familiar with it. I hate that about the pop music world, that they rely on that so much. By the way, what is this behind here? Yes. Kind of looks like that I need to make this just like 1 pixel larger. There we go. How OCD am I? Well, let's see here. Now's kind of got a break in the conversation. I must have gotten really boring because you guys got really quiet after that. Shouldn't have switched after. And Django Unchained is a good movie though. You know what I think is so weird trading? Yeah. I'm still looking at this. It doesn't look like the treasury market has moved too much. So it's just like, what was I telling you, right? Had all of those spoofs come out and now nothing has happened. That was very likely somebody spoofing trying to stir people up to your detriment. It's a heuristic. It's not something that I can prove empirically for sure, but that's just the way that I play it. Is if I'm seeing spoofs early in the session that seem to have no good reason to explain them, I mean, if I'm really expecting a meta order and I see spoofs early in the session, that's a really good sign, right? But on a Friday, it's really suspicious, right? If it was like 10 o'clock and on a Friday and I saw spoofs, then I would really be like, that you're bullshitting us and should be reported to the CFTC, you know? I agree. The music today just sucks big time. I don't know, man. Yeah, well, you know, the other interesting thing is that some of the better music has come out of nowhere. It doesn't actually come out of the commercial stuff. It's so weird. Like, why is it that taking the super commercialized approach to music, where like you pay the best producer to produce a track, you pay the best lyric writer to write lyrics, you pay the best song, tune writer, and you pay somebody famous to sing it for you, and you combine all those things together, and then you market it and sell it and pay them to play it on the radio constantly, right? And yet that seems to be like the way to play it, like the way that the money is made. That's what they're doing. But the stuff that people are identifying with are things that come from people that like nobody's ever heard of before, you know? Some little remix or bonk music is kind of the genre that really took off from TikTok in electronic dance music. Although the problem, I think funk is kind of stagnating. You got to move away from that one instrument. I love the 90s industrial stuff. Yeah, you know what I think does it with the 90s industrial music, Brad? Is you feel like there's something more that you have missed. You know what I mean? Like, you really get that feeling with 9 Inch Nails. So you're like, wow, this is kind of interesting music. But it feels like that he was inspired by somebody else, and I can't find what it was that was like that he was using as a cookie cutter. The reality of it is that he literally invented that sound, and it's become so famous from people copying him. And you were just maybe not around or you cognizant enough at the time to know it. But industrial always feels like that there's something more, and it makes you want to dig. You know what I mean? A genre that also kind of does that is trance, but with trance it's like you just keep digging and you just keep finding stuff, because that genre has been around for so long now, and they make so much stuff that it just, you can go down the rabbit hole on that. On trance and house music, they have so much history. Okay, so we are getting some selling. There is a stack at 06 half. There was a large order at 06 3800. That's pretty big. We've been getting a lot of really big orders. I'd say it's still relatively quiet. Like, look at how that transaction happened. There's still not very much. Okay, so there they took another one, but like, the number of level 2 updates that we're getting on the DOM right now is not very high. So that's The level 2 activity is quite low for the amount of volume that we just had run through there, pushing us down 3 or 4 ticks. So that's a little interesting. There was a stack, but it's gone now. What's the S&P 500 doing? It's not, doesn't look too interesting, but it's kind of on the downturn. Dollar maybe having pivoted here recently. I'll have to keep an eye on this. It is starting to do a couple of interesting things that kind of make me think that we need to keep our eyes open. I'm still gonna be reluctant to put risk on, though, it being Friday and me not having a direct catalyst that I can point to. Oh, okay, so we do have Harker at the top of the hour. That's a good thing to remember. SEC charges Caroline Ellison and Gary Wang with defrauding investors with FTX. That's good. Kind of, I thought that they were going to get off scot-free. That's good. Checking Twitter here, making sure I didn't miss anything. Too close to short. That, wow, how did you catch that? What? Really? I know what he's gonna turn around and do, and it's gonna piss me off, but given what the range of the session is from 10 to 06, that's freaking amazing, dude. I'm super impressed. Super impressed. Especially since I don't really see a super strong reason to trade. It does look like it's kind of, to, you know, we should be selling in it. Well, let's wait for Harker first. Okay, so my sources are saying that Harker is basically just repeating comments that he's already made. It was, oh, well, then why did you take it off at 06? I guess there was a flurry of volume that was a little suspicious. It does kind of make, you know, usually when you get that flurry, there's like a little bit of a further move and then they come back to it. And that's kind of what they did, isn't it? And they haven't touched, I mean, they haven't filled you at 04.5 yet, right? Philadelphia Fed's Matt Harker. I expect that we will raise rates a few more times this year, though to my mind, the day of us raising them 75 basis points at a time have surely passed. In my view, hikes of 25 basis points will be appropriate going forward. Could be 04.5. It's awfully close. I'm always kind of looking for like big round numbers, right? Because there's always more liquidity at those big round numbers. And I can see 3.45 in the micro treasuries, and I can see 115 even down below us. Kind of makes me think that it's like there could be more to this. But, well, and we are seeing a pretty decent amount of selling even since we've started here. So just since we've started, there's been about 10k sell, and then before that we had a 10k sell before that. So we might get a pause here, but it does look me like kind of one of the issues that I have here is I don't necessarily know what they're going to do here in the treasuries. I just don't have enough information about what the flows might be here. I do suspect that they're going to keep selling it, but I don't really have anything I can use to... Okay, what's with the spread there all of a sudden? Looks like somebody hit them through here. And they're maybe stuck and the liquidity just stopped. They stopped putting the liquidity up there. Isn't that weird? It pulled back. I'm really tempted to put a limit order out at 3.447 to see if they react, but I think I would be really freaked out if I put that out there and they filled it. So I'm gonna not do that. There was definitely like a sell there and everything, but like the bounce is like coming back really hard. Also, I am seeing the dollar decline here. Genuine question, aren't the people ramping up spending at least as responsible for the platinum coin? I don't recall many people talking about the coin when Clinton ran a surplus in 1998 either. Oh, jeez. So one of the long-running, I don't know if it's a joke or what, but there's this idea that keeps popping up that we should print $1 trillion platinum coin or something like that. I don't know why this keeps coming up, but somebody on Twitter is talking about that. I do have a rant about the debt ceiling. Here's my rant about the debt ceiling. Okay. Especially when you go on Reddit, the narrative is no, the Democrats should not negotiate. We shouldn't be held hostage, etc., etc., etc. Guys, we haven't reached the debt limit yet, right? The Treasury is taking extraordinary measures. We don't come to that government shutdown level for another 5 months, okay? So you're 5 months too early to say that. You have 5 months to negotiate and come up with a deal that avoids a government shutdown. Why are you not negotiating right now? Stop holding all of this stuff to the very last second, Congress. Good grief. Because I'm telling you what, I feel like that. So here's another thing. Don't listen to the idiots out online about how to play this, because the political situation is different. In the past, it was like all you needed was one or two Republicans to switch over, and then in the end you would get like 4 to switch over in order to get a bill through the Senate to end the government shutdown. And it's not very difficult to get Romney and Murkowski to do that, okay? This time around, your margin of error is 6. You're going to have to get 6 people to switch over and vote with the Democrats to get something through. And that is assuming that Kevin McCarthy puts it up for vote. And guess what? He's not going to do that, because the whole fight over him becoming speaker was, basically how this was going to come down. Basically, the conservatives, or let's call them the deficit hawks, wanted rules put in place so that if Kevin McCarthy betrayed them in a government shutdown, they could remove him. Okay? So it's not the same situation. Who's in charge here now, right? It's those hawks. And everybody says like, well, if people start losing money and everything, they're going to be... No, listen, MTG, these people, they don't care. Their whole career is reduce government spending, and they don't care how they do it. They will do the crazy thing. They'll do whatever is necessary. So do not underestimate. They will do it. They will 100% do it. Okay? Why even play with it? Why even risk it? Just make a freaking deal before we get there. It can be done. All you got to do is cut something. Gosh, Democrats, would it kill you to just cut a little bit of government spending? Like, you could even get, like, I'm telling you what. So a lot of Republicans, especially the establishment Republicans, they're like, well, we got to get military spending, right? Like, they were like, oh, well, the budget that we passed the end of the year, it was good because we got our military spending. I'm telling you what, Republicans right now don't care. In fact, Republicans right now kind of don't like the whole Ukraine thing and would be actually quite okay with spending less money on the military right now. Here's your chance, Democrats. You couldn't cut military and a bunch of other stuff and reduce the deficit a little bit. They don't even want to negotiate. Frustrates me. And that's my rant on the debt ceiling. You're for reduced military spending? Well, you know, I really do. I'm searching for words here. The whole idea that we need to have a strong military, like first of all, if there's anything that is like we're supposed to spend federal money on, it's the military. Like, that's one of the things that's enumerated in the Constitution, right? So having a strong military is important, and it has been a benefit to the United States and to the world as a whole. Okay, but I do not believe that our military spends the money efficiently at all, right? Like, yeah, are we probably not spending enough in order to meet some of our goals and stuff like that? Yeah, but it's really, really hard for me to be like, oh, we gotta throw so much more when they really are wasting a lot of it, right? And there's like trillions of dollars that they can't account for. How can I justify giving you money you use more and you can't tell us where it came from? Absolutely ridiculous. You can't. I refuse to believe that that's just like some sort of an accounting error. Somebody's doing something they're not supposed to, and they know it, and they're just playing us for fools because they know that nobody's going to do anything. What's this Joseph Wang retweeting? We need a better diplomacy. Our diplomats suck and only care about spreading LGBT issues to countries that have existed for thousands of years. Well, okay, so that is happening, but is the way that foreign policy has gone, isn't it so interesting? Like, everybody was really, really panicked about what Donald Trump was going to do to foreign policy, and that he was attacking our allies and that he was harming our relationships with NATO and European countries and so forth. I think he had a good point that the NATO countries need to spend more, but hey, I don't think that those concerns were necessarily unfounded. He was saying a lot of crazy things that kind of like rocking the boat. Did they need to be said? It's not my place to say. I'm not an expert in that area, right? But what actually happened? Well, he said a lot of scary things. I don't think that it really changed too much. But then when Joe Biden got in office, it was like everything fell apart, right? I think that the big one was pulling out from Afghanistan and losing Afghanistan. I think that other countries, you'd think that it wouldn't matter, they don't care. I think that other countries really lost confidence in the United States after that. That was the point at which they really said, yeah, we really cannot trust them to do what they say they're going to do, because another president could come in with a different policy and just completely screw it up, right? But what it was, and you would think that would have been something that Trump caused. Maybe he contributed to it, but it's curious to me that it wasn't until Joe Biden got in that countries started doing that. I think that the big one, maybe part of the reason that why we've seen that so much is because of Saudi Arabia in particular, right? Joe Biden has been very antagonistic towards Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia is even doing things like, hey, we'll give you oil if you pay us in gold, right? Like, I don't think it's as big of a deal as some of these people make it out to be, but it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing, right? Politicians are a reflection of the people. Well, that's true. Politicians aren't actually real people, right? If you become a politician and you think that you're going to be an individual person, I got news for you. It don't work that way. Okay, so Donald Trump and Pompeo told the Taliban that we were going to pull out at Camp David. That's true. That's true. 100% true. The whole way that went down is really curious, and I think I knew what the strategy behind it was at the time, and now it kind of seems really dumb, doesn't it? I think that at the time they set a time. They wanted a time that was after the election to pull out, but like there was the thing is that I think that they did have a date, and Donald Trump did, and they pushed it back, right? They said, oh, we can't do it by then, and they pushed it back, right? But then he put it in place, and Joe Biden got in charge, and he just said, like, do it, right? And I don't think that the Biden administration planned it at all. I don't think they really thought that through. It was a massive man. I mean, I don't think it was just to have to do with the president, right? There was a larger issue at play in Afghanistan, right? We were paying people to have a local military, and they were like pocketing the money instead of funding the troops, and the troops weren't really very I don't know they weren't very loyal or whatever. They just threw their weapons down and ran at the first sign of trouble. Right. So there was our entire strategy about building up the military for Afghanistan and everything was flawed from the beginning. So any president that would have tried to pull out would have been met with disaster. Right. It would have been the smart thing would have been to stay, probably. And Donald Trump did want to leave. Would Donald Trump have actually left if he had stayed president? That's a very interesting question that I'm not sure I have a good answer for. If he actually would have done it or not. Yeah, they did fill Yato for half. I think Afghanistan was about reducing this influence and economic power of Iran. Now the Iranians probably have great influence in the region. Who knows what amount of resources they have. Yeah. Well, this is a weird. A Good Friday is a big test. It really is. I mean, I think we can explain it, right? That you don't want to take on big risk before the weekend, and I think that's why Fridays end up being difficult. But it results in this kind of, two paths. Path one is nothing happens and you just get passed up, diced up. And option two is you get this monster trend that pops out of nowhere and you're like, why didn't I take a trade? Seeing it here at the bottom, it makes me want to hit it. The price that we identified was 3.445, right? We'd be up 10 ticks already. So even though I think that I need to adjust my calibrations here. Well, there's a big iceberg at 04 now too. Because what happened there was I was saying, well, it's still within the range. It's not a big deal, but I could have made money off of it because we are steepening and the 30-year is getting hammered. So the thing with Iran is that there's kind of this battle going on between should we support do we want the Iranians or the Saudi Arabians to be more in charge in the Middle East is really kind of what it comes down to. And I don't know why, but there are people in the Democrat Party that would prefer to be with Iran. That's straight up what it is. I know that sounds like kind of crazy and conspiracy, but it's not. This is kind of an unspoken thing in the intelligence and foreign policy community that there are people. So like this, I think one of the best examples of like where this kind of comes into play is with the Khashoggi killing, right? So conservatives just kind of look the other way. They're like, it's none of our business. And Democrats were super, super upset that they possibly set for the assassination of a journalist, right? The Democrats are very, very upset. Joe Biden, very, very upset about that. Why is the reason that they're very, very upset about that is because he was somebody that was on the pro-Iranian side of things. Because I tell you what, man, that is not the first time that a journalist has been killed by a government, right? Remember all of those documents? Oh, this one I almost hesitate to say because I think that it throttles you. But you remember those documents that got leaked about the CIA that were showing that they had the ability to shoot radio waves at a microprocessor and make it do things, and that they could intentionally cause cars to crash? It had microchips in it. And around that time, there was a journalist who was on a really big story, mysteriously died in a car crash when he lost control of his car. You remember that one? Khashoggi is not the first journalist to be killed by a government, but the reason that they cared was because he was a propagandist for Iran, basically. Maybe propagandist is too strong of a word, but that's the thing that's going on over there. And you know what? It's a tough one. It's like they're both bad. You know, there's things that we don't like about the Saudi Arabians too, right? Seems to me though that the world is still set up as such that you probably should be nice to Saudi Arabia. And you know, I think that they of course there's a lot of problems in Saudi Arabia, but I'm also like really impressed with the country, and they're making progress, and I think there's lots of great things. And you know, if I were to meet the leader of that country, I think that would just be like a tremendous opportunity to learn. I don't think I'd be trying to lecture them or anything like that, you know? That's probably the take that we should be taking right now. Okay, so Code Lounge asked me, is VWAP a good tool to use with order flow? So I'm going to say, I'm going to take the controversial approach to this and say no. So VWAP is a really interesting measurement that definitely has some use. So before we had these more advanced models like the Almgren-Kris algorithm, using a volume weighted average price or a time weighted average price was the metric that large block orders would use to determine, you know, what they should be doing. Okay, so there is some use to it, but the whole thing is that they found that it wasn't, they were losing money from it. They weren't performing as well as they wanted, and Almgren-Kris really improved things, right? So like that's the first thing is people will say the reason VWAP matters is because institutions use it. Just realize that the smartest guys out there have moved on to bigger things, right? But the reason why I'm saying no is because the VWAP just doesn't give you enough information to really see what's going on underneath of the covers that I think is important, at least. So this kind of comes back to the framework that we kind of have to use, right? Orders have a very strong impact on price. Markets are very inelastic. Oh my gosh, I have such a good illustration of this that I was thinking about the other day. Because when we talk about market elasticity, right? Okay, remember that market elasticity has to do with how does supply and demand change as price changes. So it's like a rubber band. If you have a rubber band here around my fingers and price moves up, then generally what's going to happen is there's supply is going to increase, and that's going to put pressure to move you back down, right? So that's that elasticity kind of pulls you back, right? Like a rubber band, okay? So I don't have a rubber band on my fingers right now, right? So that's really like zero elasticity, right? My hands can just move freely, and my hand moving doesn't, impact my propensity for my hands to come back together, right? Okay. But what would inelastic mean? Inelastic would be like you move your hands apart, and then when you stop, the rubber band becomes loose around your fingers. That's what inelasticity is, right? Is like you move it and it actually expands more than you'd moved it, essentially, right? That's market inelasticity, okay? So because the market is very inelastic, that means that when orders come in, that the market has to react very aggressively to it, because those orders are taking out those market makers and they'll have to adjust to it, right? Okay. And that means that it's very easy to move things from a statistical to remove a statistical inefficiency, right? But it also introduces informational inefficiencies in the market, because something that might have no informational content at all will just really, really move us, right? So those new orders, you really got to watch those new orders. And that's really what I'm getting at, is that it is very, very critical to watch the pace of market orders hitting the market and where they're hitting at. And you don't see that with VWAP. And so what ends up happening is if an impulse comes, you're not going to see it if all you're watching is VWAP, right? You want to see the market orders. So, interesting things can happen if they come back to VWAP, and lots of people like to take trades off of those, but I would recommend looking for the informational inefficiencies and trying to predict the orders that come in. And a lot of those orders don't care what the VWAP is. I mean, come on, like if we were going to wait for this to come back to the VWAP, you might never happen today, right? So I hope that wasn't too far out of line. I'm not trying to say that VWAP is useless, but I disagree with these people that think that all you need to do is get a chart with a VWAP on and you'll be fine. It's not enough. It's not enough to understand what's really going on. I have to say, the 10-year seems to be like every time it bounces, it bounces really well. Bounces really well. It is kind of coming up on less volume when it does that. The volume has been all sell, and so I really should have taken that trade at 3.45. Okay, so I'd be up 15 ticks now. I feel like I need a pullback. How far has this gone now? 15k. So that's actually very illiquid. So we've actually moved down on not a lot of change in cumulative delta, but there's been a lot of volume behind it too. Like the volume has been both ways, at least in the 10-year. The reason why our micros moved as far as it has is because we're steepening, and the 30-year got slammed. So the question that we have to ask ourselves is, is the 30-year going to get exhausted? Probably, right? Why is it that last CPI was in line, but the market moves? Well, so in a situation like that, so many people are sitting there waiting to take a trade that the volume comes regardless of what the fundamental information was, right? So that's just another prime example of how orders move the market and markets aren't very efficient. And so, yeah, you get these situations where like the market will move very, very aggressively for really dumb reasons. Right? Yeah, there's like what I don't know what we want to call it. Like there's a what is the scale that they use in One Punch Man? Okay, yes, there is wolf, tiger, demon, dragon, and god. Okay, so there are, so like normally a non-farms payroll or a CPI is a demon or a dragon level event, right? But every once in a while you get these ones that everybody in the market is anticipating all month and are like super key data points to the market that are god tier economic events. And when you get a god tier economic event, you will get massive volatility no matter what the number is. I have to remember that. I'll like put it on a note or something somewhere. That last CPI in particular was pretty wild too, wasn't it? I think I can remember it. Wolf, tiger, demon, dragon, god. Wolf, dragon, demon, dragon, god. Oh, by the way, I didn't notice that the S&P 500 had a pretty good move up there. Did that coincide with this drop in the dollar? Yeah, kind of. No, not really though. I mean, this was when the dollar shifted. So this is right here was when the ES shifted. So the high in the dollar coincides with that low in ES. But ES didn't, just kept going through this whole period where the dollar went sideways. So Deutsche Bank is slashing the bonus pool for its investment bankers by 40% while increasing the payout for traders, says the Financial Times. It really looks to me like I don't know if they're going to continue further. It looks like we missed an opportunity in the treasury to sell it. Should have taken the 0.4, or sorry, the 3.45. Like I could be long 3.45 even, and just trying to hold it, and if it comes back, scratch it, and then if it continues on, we'd make money. So here's the S&P 500 opening up, by the way. What the heck is Andrew Tate tweeting about Pierce Morgan? Oh wait, I have to watch this. Hold on. Yeah. So I won't say exactly what they were saying in there. I don't like Andrew Tate really. I know a lot of people in my age demographic really look up to him. I have some concerns with him too. You know, it's not that there's a lot of things that I've heard him say that I think are really good. Like either he really hit it on the nose and he was saying it in a way that like really resonated with people and could have a really positive impact on people, or situations where, you know, maybe what he's saying is not explicitly true, but it's useful for it to be said because it kind of moves the conversation and lets us have conversations that are difficult to have. Like the conversation that I think is the most difficult to have, like really talking about this is kind of scary talking about this on social media, because there's a group of people out there that will just want to eviscerate you, okay? But we have a generation of women that are basically never going to get married. And when they're 80 years old, it's going to be a problem. Like, I'm not, I'm not saying that like women are a burden. That's not what I'm trying to say. Okay. But there are going to be a lot of people that regret not having family. I guarantee it. Okay. Because when you're that old, that's all you've got. It's all you've got. And we didn't, in past generations, kind of drove it into people's heads that, you only have so long to get married and everything. And now we've got these women that they're like, I saw this one story or this conversation that they were having in a newspaper where the woman was like 46 and now she wanted to settle down and she was having trouble doing it. Guys, you gotta settle down early. Really, the earlier you can find a suitable partner, the better. Now, the downside of that is that you're not as experienced, and so you might not be very good at picking a good partner. And that's a concern that we had before, that I think that modern generations overcompensated for, right? But this is the thing that Andrew Tate talks about, and I do not appreciate necessarily the way that he went about saying it, and some of the things that he's said in regards to this issue. Like, we're kind of really unnecessarily offensive, okay? But it is a conversation that we've got to have, man. Because it is now an issue where it's going to be a society level issue, and there's going to be significant knockoff effects on policy and economics and everything because of it, right? Like, if I was out there trying to start a business right now to make money, that's the demographic that I would be going after, man. Is women in their mid 30s that never got married. Andrew Tate himself doesn't even have children, though. I'm not sure about that. I think that he may have children and he just doesn't want them to be a target, and so he avoids saying anything about them. But I think he may actually have children. But that kind of does get into where I kind of start to be like, I'm not sure. Even though maybe he said some good things, I'm not so sure it's a good thing that he's like a big role model, because he doesn't really talk about family stuff at all. Really, the way that he talks, he just comes off as a narcissist to me. I feel like that he plays into this thing that's going on in society where it's like everybody wants you to be a narcissist, and Andrew Tate is kind of telling you to be a narcissist. And the other thing that I dislike about him, and I guess this was kind of more related to my personal beliefs, but he says, it's okay if a man cheats, but it's haram if a woman cheats. And I guess he is Muslim, and that's what they believe. And so that's just the way that he portrays it, is that it's disgusting and bad and everything. But I feel like that the logic that he uses to justify that is really disgusting. I really think that anybody the issue that I have is when you betray your partner's trust. You're supposed to be in an exclusive relationship and you breach it, and that happens far too often in society, and it's a very significant problem that it has a very measurable negative impact on people, especially children, right? So I do not appreciate his take on that at all, for instance, right? Handle legions of lonely people with mental illness. I suspect that's why MAID is. What is MAID? Is this something I can invest in? You're giving... Is that a mini-series? After fleeing an abusive relationship, a young mother finds a job cleaning houses as she flights to provide her child and build them a better future. Oh, medical assistance in dying. Yeah. That, oh gosh. Don't even get me started on that one. Every time that I hear news coming out of Canada, I am like, what the F is going on up there, man? Holy crap. Justin Trudeau has been so bad for that country, hasn't he? Personal opinion. Oh man. Okay, so something has happened to oil here in the past few minutes, and it just dropped about $1. Yeah, just as soon as I said that, the News Squawk noticed that and also said something. And the S&P 500 is also down. And maybe we're seeing some flight to say, I wonder if some of this movement in the treasuries, I don't know, there's not a lot of volume on it. So I'm going to say that there's not a flight to safety trade actively going on, but maybe some of the arbitrage and everything, that may be part of why the treasuries moved up. Our generation, by and large, will not age well. I think that I'm significant. I gotta tell you, I am in significantly better shape than most other people my age. And I have a lot of health problems, man. Well, I guess I don't have that many health problems. It's mostly just my gut, right? But that's a really significant health problem. Really significant. Cost me a lot of money. Yeah, no, but you know what I think it really is here? I saw a video. I guess I'm getting this from Jordan Peterson because I saw a Jordan Peterson video yesterday on TikTok about this, but I think he's 100% right. We've spent so much time in our society talking about rights, and it's really moved into an area where it's like, I have rights to not just, not have my rights infringed, but that I'm entitled to certain things now is kind of where the conversation is starting to turn to, right? And in American society in particular, we haven't had any conversation whatsoever about responsibilities. And it's really important that we have both in the conversation, because responsibilities is where people ultimately derive meaning in their lives, right? Now, the thing that people talk about with Rick and Morty is that there's kind of nihilism in it, that doesn't really matter what you do, because in their universe there's an infinity of different realities and so forth that you could go to, right? So what really matters? And a lot of kids these days are becoming nihilists. And you kind of have that coupled with like the existential dread that comes with it, and nihilism leads to unhappiness. It absolutely does. And where do people find meaning that makes them happy in their lives? It is derived largely from the responsibilities that they take up, right? The biggest one being the responsibility to your family and your children. And if you don't take on that responsibility, then what are you doing in your life? Because your responsibility is not just to make as much money as possible. To make as much money as possible for why? Like, you have to have that greater purpose. And not saying that you can't find that greater purpose, but a lot of people don't, right? The reason why guys like Andrew Tate and Jordan Peterson and so on and so forth resonate so strongly with some of these kids is because they're the only ones out there saying you need to have responsibility. And the kids turn around and they say, yes, I should. I should be responsible for taking care of my body as number one, right? And then you go out and you start a family. Yeah. And yeah, it's going to change. It's going to turn your life around. It's like a simple thing, but I think that that's primarily why they're getting traction. Starts from the parents, their environment, and their teachers. I mean, this is why I stress so strongly some of the things that I do here on this stream, because yes, I teach about that markets are not informationally efficient, that there are some inefficiencies built into the very system. Okay, well, the reason why I focus on that so hard is that means that no matter what you do, okay, a lot of people say the government is too involved. Maybe it is, or maybe it isn't, but I'm just telling you that You can make this system as perfect as you can possibly think you can, implement all of the changes that you want. There will still be inefficiencies in the market. The reality of the world, the reality of reality, the reality of reality is that it is complicated. It is more complicated than we have the ability to comprehend, right? We spent all of human existence trying to understand it, and we still don't completely understand reality, right? So why do we think that the realities that we've created, like systems, or like our financial system, for instance, that we're gonna be able to completely understand and control that? It's just absolute insanity. No, those inefficiencies will always exist, right? And in order for us to have a smart, functioning society, we need to have people that understand what's going on and know when our markets are out of whack because of certain built-in inefficiencies in the system. In other words, what we're doing, yeah, we want to make money. I don't know if futures trading is really the best way to build wealth if you don't already have it, okay? But there's still something very valuable that you're doing, because the world needs people like us to watch the market, know what things should be worth, take this seriously, and understand when things are out of whack, right? That's our responsibility. Everybody wants, I keep hearing it, that one of the things that irks me the most in when I'm watching financial content is when people say that like trading and finance has no value. It's total nonsense. One of the most important seats in our society that needs roles that need to be filled in order for our society to continue progressing is that we need people to watch this system, and that we have to make discretionary decisions about managing that economy, because we know that it's inefficient in certain ways, right? That's a responsibility that we have. That's why coming in here every day and watching it, even if I'm not going to take a trade, I take it very seriously, because I feel and teaching you guys and helping other people that are seriously interested in this to also be effective at being able to do this. That's my responsibility towards making this society better, right? That's why I push it, because that's the responsibility side of trading, right? Similarly, you have a responsibility to spend the capital that you have wisely too, right? It's irresponsible to come in and say, oh, I have $5,000, I'm just going to YOLO it in the market and I don't even know what I'm doing. No, we need to spend our capital. We have a responsibility to use our capital in the most efficient way we know how. And we need more people that are good at allocating capital. That's a need that we have in our society that I feel like we're starting to lose, because we want the robots to do it for us. Well, oil sure had a plunge there, but it looks like they're recovering most of their losses, and the treasuries have pulled back. Well, geez, they didn't really come back very much in micro yield futures. You bought the Black Swan book? Did you buy just the book, or did you buy the whole series? It has the whole Incierto series. Cool. Yeah, I've read the books, but I don't have hard copies of them. I'd like to buy hard copies. I don't know. I don't think I've read all of the Incierto books. I can't even remember which ones I read. I definitely read the technical Incierto. That was tough reading. So much of his math is over my head, man. He is not the best at teaching like math stuff. I think that he could be if he had some help. Like if Taleb made more YouTube videos and he got together with somebody like me that had a good camera and edited it for him and everything, I think that he could be a really good teacher. But the videos that he does have are really hard to follow sometimes. He's just too smart, and he, most of us, we don't remember all of that math. You know, we kind of need a refresher. I tell this to some kids and they just roll their eyes at me. Empires rise and fall on the markets, period. Yeah, it was, well, it has some societies, yeah. You don't want rot in your financial system, for sure. He teaches at NY. Does he teach at NYU? I don't know where he lives. I've kind of been interested in where he lives. I kind of thought maybe he lives in Europe. He probably defaults in his head that he is a great teacher. Well, the thing that it is for me is that he's teaching graduate level math, and I think that a lot of us could understand that if some basic concepts were reviewed first, right? And so the problem, I think, is that he defaults to a graduate level teaching style, right? And not everybody can follow that. So that's why I think that if he... Okay, he teaches at NYU and he lives in NYC. Okay, cool. I think that if he got together with some... Because he's made a bunch of YouTube videos, right? And they were pretty popular, but he kind of stopped making them. And like I said, they're a little hard to follow. And I think that if he just got together with a content creator, a little better camera, because he's clearly recording it with his iPhone, better camera, better lighting, a real chalkboard that has a real rough surface so that it doesn't reflect the light back out, you know, and some video editing, he could be a lot more effective. You're right, he's from Lebanon. I didn't even, when you said he's from Syria, that should have gone no, that's not true, Akshay. Didn't even trigger my head. I think, you know, I was a little stressed out earlier in the week, and yesterday I was able to relax. Was really able to relax last night. No, he's from Syria. Dynamic hedging has been the only good book he wrote. I think that the things that he teaches about the nature of fat-tailed distributions is really valuable stuff, right? I think that the biggest problem that we have in the retail day trading space is people that do not understand the consequences of a fat-tailed distribution. Come in, take excessive risk, win almost every time, and do that for a day or two and think they've made it, and don't realize that they can't see the statistical properties of the whole distribution because they need tens of thousands of samples. And so they spend all this time trading something that is really only making money because they take on excessive risk, and then they lose it all at once. And then that year or two or whatever it was that they spent while they were doing that thing was wasted. And they are never feel the need, because they think they're being successful, they never search for the deeper knowledge that they need to really find a profitable strategy. That's the biggest problem that we have in day trading. And if people just read Nassim Taleb's Fooled by Randomness book, they would avoid that. He watered that stuff down a lot. Well, that's true for sure. Like the Incierto series is mostly not as technical as he would like. That's why he made the technical Incierto. But then the technical Incierto is some of the things in there are really hard to wrap your heads around. And I had a very difficult time understanding the relevance of most of the book, at least to me. I was like, oh, you know, if I was trading options, then this would be really useful. But when futures trading, I'm not 100% sure how I would apply it. Maybe it just doesn't apply. I don't know. I tell you what, if there was anybody on this earth that I would be interested in meeting and getting to know better, I think it would be Nassim Taleb. He seems like just an incredibly interesting man. I don't agree with everything that he says. Like, he has some really strong political opinions sometimes, and I don't think that he realizes how much his political opinions might bias him in certain ways. But his opinions are always still interesting. You know what I mean? And I just want to understand better what makes that guy tick, you know? And I want to know, like, okay, I know that you don't do, you know, that you were more in options, and I'm going to bet that he might say, you know, if I said, oh, what's something that you know that might be useful to us in futures trading? He'd probably say, oh, don't trade futures. That's what I think that he would say. But if he went and he applied himself and he said, let's find something statistical about futures trading and risk management in futures trading that would be useful to retail traders, I think that he could probably find something interesting. I'd be really interested to see what he would find, you know? Because he is absolutely smart. And he did make some serious money from trading options. The new one, the statistical consequences of Fat-Tails. Was that the statistical consequences of Fat-Tails was what they called the technical Encierto, wasn't it? I'm not going to open up my Explorer and find the PDF to catch what it is. But he's working on another one because he had posted some excerpts on what he was doing. And it kind of sounded like he set out with like one goal and then he got so into the weeds that it kind of turned into this other thing. So it'll be interesting when it comes out. Because I've been sitting here like, I want hard copies of it, and you can buy like the premium version that's like leather bound and everything. I would like any of those any book that I get, like this one, my favorite book, Trades, Quotes, and Prices, Financial Markets Under the Microscope. Would prefer it to be hard. Would prefer it to be hardback. If I could get it leather bound, I'd prefer even that, because I want it to be like something that looks nice on the shelf, and that maybe when my kids get older, they see those books on there and they go, oh, maybe I should read a book. Oh, okay, well, you read this one and this one and this one. You know, if I was rich, if I was a millionaire or a billionaire, I would want to have like a huge library. Like, oh my gosh. Oh, this reminds me of... Have you ever seen the pictures of JP Morgan's library? It is so effing cool, man. Freaking look at that. That is a freaking library, man. I want something like that. Maybe a little darker. Kind of more like that dark... I forget what they call it. Kind of more of a darker aesthetic. But still. This is a museum you can go to. I really want to go there. My dad has trading books on the shelf, and I quietly sneak up and pick up a book when he was young. Yeah. So, like, the question is, should one buy the Encierto series now? Or will a new version of it come out when he puts his new book out? And how many more books does he have left in him? That's the other interesting thing about this guy that I find so compelling about him, is that I don't think he's done talking. Unfortunately, his next book is probably going to talk about the pandemic a lot, but that's okay. There's still things that we'll be able to gain from it. You're hearing news? I'm not hearing anything on my stream, nor am I seeing anything on Twitter. That was the library he locked all the bankers in and asked them to help the Treasury back in 1907. Oh yeah, I remember that story. I mean, I think that the crises are the like prime example, because everybody has the delusion that, like, well, if we just let the free market do what, because listen, a lot of the time these crises are caused by government intervention, but I'm just telling you, there are inefficiencies in the market that you have to handle. And so one of the issues that we have is that when it comes to a head, nobody wants to do anything about it because of this idea that, like, the markets are perfect, you know? So we shouldn't have to ever come in and save it. But the reality is that we're imperfect and our systems are imperfect, and the market will never be efficient, right? It's not just that markets are, excuse me, man. It's not just that markets are inefficient. They will always be inefficient. We can make them better. They will always be inefficient, and there will always be situations where they will require human intervention. Always. And there needs to be people on this planet that understand when that is and what to do. And that's part of our role. Of course, bigger up people kind of are the ones that make the decisions and everything, but that doesn't mean that we don't play a role, because our ideas and the things that we know, that kind of all filters up to some extent. The Babylon Bee just comes out with headline, Republicans starting to think Trump might not pull off a last-minute 4D chess move. Yeah. I do remember after the election, everybody thought that there's a 5D chess move coming, and you just got to be patient. Trump's going to do it. And it never happened. Well, the treasuries appear to have reversed. This pullback, the volume has been sideways, slightly up, but mostly sideways. I am seeing spreads continue to steepen. So the 5-year is leading the way, and that's why here in yields we haven't come back as much, because the ZB is still heavy. But does look like a pretty significant shift. I suppose if we wanted to go short, we could do it, but I think that suggests to me that whatever it was that was pushing us down was maybe not necessarily such a strong flow that we really needed to be as concerned about missing it as I was. Have you ever checked out a book called Narrative Economics? No, haven't heard that. So what are my plans right now? My plans right now are we're going to do this Series 65. I'm going to hit these super hard this weekend and get all these memorized. I'm going to go back down through questions, and I need to schedule a day to take the test. I've done everything else. Well, not everything else. I got to memorize these. There's still a lot of little tiny things that, like, you got to memorize, and I just haven't been able to memorize them. So then when I am done with that, I think it's Series 3. So Series 3, that might be a couple more months to get through. I might not have as many, like, 3 days to do that, or like vacation, as I did with the Series 65. So and then after that, I want to find a quant book about portfolio strategies. So I think I've got the next year or so worth of reading. It's hard for me to read, man. I mean, I'm a fast reader and everything, but I'm very ADHD, and if I start reading, sometimes it makes me fall asleep. I'll read a page and realize that I wasn't actually reading it. I was thinking about things in my head, and then have to go and reread that page. Like, reading is really tough. So it's, you know, it's, what is the word? It's a grind for me. Reading is a grind for me, is what I would say. I can read quickly, but it becomes a grind for me. So I think that should keep me occupied for most of 2023. If not 2024. But then maybe I'll look at that. Another one that I'm really interested in, though, is I found this history book about the Federal Reserve that I really, really want to do. Reading is really a skill. Well, you know, but like that's the thing. What I'm kind of saying is, like, so the problem that you're going to see with me a lot, and I think that if you really pay attention here in this, by the way, let me clear this above me. I think that if you really watch the stream a lot and you think about it, you'll see it. My deficits come not in not knowing things, but not being able to put them into practice when they matter, right? So I'm a really good reader. I read the internet so much that I've done a lot of reading, so I can read very, very quickly, and all of that is just the attention span, man. Now, if I have time periods where I can just sit down when I'm on medication and read, then I can get it amazing. But I trade during that time every day, so who knows? We were talking about this the other day, but and it's kind of a scary thing to think about and kind of a sad thing to think about, but I wouldn't mind going and working for an institution again for a little while. And if I did that, I wouldn't be able to do the stream anymore, right? I wouldn't be able to make financial content. I'd still be able to do some stuff, but maybe make some videos, but it wouldn't really be able to be about financial content per se, And if I did go into that situation, one of the benefits would be that I could take that time when I wake up early and read instead. Right? But when I'm not on medication, yeah, it's just the attention span, man. Reading is one of the hardest things. Because you'll be reading and they'll say something and you'll start thinking about that thing instead of reading it. And you think that you're reading, and then you realize that I didn't pick up a thing about that page that I just read. And so for me, what I'd like to do is get a card of some sort and hold it as I go down the page. That keeps you reading at a consistent pace. Feds George is speaking right now, by the way. It's encouraging to see inflation decreasing. I don't really see a clear driver for this uptrend in the treasuries. It feels like it just really reversed that. I guess somebody needed to sell it and they finished or something. The funny thing about ADHD is that somebody that's ADHD, you have difficulty with remembering something and following through on that objective over a great deal of time. And so an ADHD person does not see how big of a deal ADHD is, right? In their own mind, they underestimate it, and so the public underestimates it, right? It's kind of funny. Like, the public attitude towards ADHD is perfectly exemplifies the condition itself. and is caused by the condition itself. Oh, did I skip your question? Did you see... Oh, yeah, how did I miss that one? Did you see those 2K buy market orders on ES that pushed the market? I did not see that. Okay, so... Again, seeing, like, something market-generated happening, and then saying that means that it's going to continue to move up, so I should buy, that's technical analysis, right? So we need to have something that has cause and effect, right? So that doesn't mean that that information can't be a part of a trade. But for me, I'm going to be looking towards what is it that's going to be moving us up today? I think that we're going to move up today because it's options expiration and there's this flow that's going to be pushing us up, right? And then I see those 2 buy orders. That's like the confirmation that that buy order flow is coming in and we move up, right? So I still want to have an informational edge. I'm really hesitant to take a trade based purely off of something that I'm seeing in the market. Because I can't tell you how many times I've seen a situation where a big order came through like that. You said 2K market buy orders that pushed the market up 4 points. Yeah, something like that is actually very likely to become a stumbling block temporarily, right? It depends on the context of it, but you know, so what you'll often see is like the market's kind of taking off and you're seeing some acceleration, and then you see the big orders like that often kind of delays the party. Kind of they get stuck and they rotate around that for a while, those big orders. So if it kind of comes in out of nowhere, then that can be the start of a trend. So yes. So I don't like to call it a fundamental edge because not all of the things that can be predictors are necessarily fundamental in nature, right? So like, funds are going to rebalance into the end of the month. This is really not fundamentals, is it? In some respects, it's kind of technicals. But it's not technicals. Like, it's not something that you can see from looking at just the price history. You have to have more information than that to do it. But you know, it's not really about fundamentals. It's not about like the state of the economy or the asset that you're talking about. It has more to do with like people's existing positioning and stuff like that, right? So that's why I don't like to use the word fundamental. So the word that the literature uses is predictors of order flow, and we'll just say predictors. I want to have informational predictors. Yeah. I don't want to base my trades purely off of information that was generated by the market. Price volume orders. They can be a part of it. They can help you for sure. But I don't think that you want that to be the primary premise of the trade. Just because anything that like that really is effective at predicting future orders is going to get arbitraged out of the market pretty quickly, right? Well, I tell you what, we came back up a decent amount. I was wondering if we were going to get back to that 3.45. We've come back a few ticks now, and I'm not sure it's ever going to happen. Well, we've got about 50 minutes left, though. No, I don't know about this one. So if I wanted to go short right now, the issue that I think I have is that I'm seeing a change. Let's just come back over here. Remember, this is, I have a free version of this indicator, the spread indicator, that's in the free pack. And then I have a more advanced version that you can get at speculatorseth.com that does things like, it rolls over automatically. You can chart it with candles. It handles data differently if it's historical or live, things like that. Okay. So when we look at the spread here in the 10-year, you can see that it's been moving up. Look at it over here in the 5-year though. Like here, we were kind of getting this steepening most of the morning, and now just in the last few minutes, it's kind of shifted down. So what has happened? You actually saw the 5-year was much more aggressive moving down than the 30-year was. So the reason this is significant is because if the spread has shifted and is going the other direction now, that means that our 10-year is not going to move as much on a downside move, right? Okay, so given what you've just said, how does the no BS spread play a role in your decision making? So are you talking about his push and pull trade? Like just in general, like the way that I would look at no BS is like no BS is like the range of options. Like these are the things that you will see happen in the market that are really kind of a consequence of how the game is played per se, right? So it's the thing that's so valuable about the No BS day trading book is you kind of understand the game and what's going on, and you can kind of use that to try and make a read and develop a story in your mind based on the order flow, right? Oh, how does the knob? You weren't talking about No BS. That's funny that I went into that. Well, I finished the thought anyways. So I don't look at any of those signals as like a signal to take a specific trade, but they can be data points that could confirm or reject my larger hypothesis based on my informational inefficiency that I have, right? Knob spread notes on bonds. Yes. So what I'm saying is that if we are steepening and we are moving up, I want to be in the 5-year, not the 30-year, right? So right now what's happening is we're flattening. So it's the opposite, really, right? I'm concerned that we're going to flatten. So if we flatten, the 5-year is going to go down a lot, and the 30-year is going to go down not as much. And since my 10-year treasury is a little bit more influenced by the 30-year than it is, it's not explicitly like this is a 7-year and this is a 10-year, and apparently the difference between a 7 and a 10-year actually ends up being pretty significant, right? So if we're flattening and we're going down, right, then I'm not going to get paid as much in the 10-year as I was, right? Because we had that situation, remember, where it was like at 3.44, and I'm like, well, the 10-year like barely moved down, but we actually moved a lot in price because the 30-year moved a lot in price. And the reason I'm concerned is because it looks like that spread is shifting. I might not get, basically my reward is probably not as good, right? Yeah. Yeah, and it kind of gets weird when you think about how are my micro yield futures going to be affected by it, right? And that's why I'm saying it seems to me that when the 30-year is the one that's really moving, that's when you have the best opportunities in the 10-year micros. So, but I could be wrong. It could shift back to steepening again, right? In fact, it may be happening. It may have just been a little bit of a head fake because the 30-year just took like 2 ticks down there. Unless you're straight. No, I'm not saying that spreads don't work. It seems to me like spreads do work, but that I don't understand enough about the strategies to really take advantage of them, is what it seems to me. And so I'm only using the spreads to adjust my reading of the order flow and help me understand risk reward. Because if we flatten, let's just say that we're flat, because that's what I'm concerned about, is that we flatten, okay? If we flatten, okay, what that means is you're selling the 5 and you're buying the 30, right? So if I see order flow over here in the 30-year, where like there's really big bid icebergs that they're running into, propping price up, for instance, one might think, oh, they're holding price there, that support, I should take a reversal on there. No, because the only reason that that volume is happening is because the spread is flattening, right? And so the 5-year is likely to continue pushing through and pull the 30-year with it. And so they're just going to slice through those icebergs, right? So that's how you have to compensate your order flow reading for the spread, is the first thing. And then, like I was saying, we can take it from a risk reward perspective. If we're moving down, but we're flattening, then you're going to get more ticks in the 5-year than you are in the 30-year. So it's better to be taking the trade in the 5-year. That brings me back to spreads shifting being the effect, not a cause. That may be the case. I know, spreads are really weird, man. I don't completely understand why they behave the way that they do. It seems like there's some stylized behaviors of spreads that are a consequence of the market microstructure, and that there's also some stylized behaviors that are just an effect of the treasury market, but I don't know what they are and have never been able to find any research on them. Like the thing that is, it feels to me is like, how do I describe this? Like the market will shift between there's a trend and then there's mean reversion. And the market has this kind of strange way of being like in mean reversion, and then all of a sudden it's a trend, and then it shifts and it switches between those two modes, right? And it seems to me like spreads are very much like that, but even more so. That there will be time that the overall general tendency is for spreads to have a lot of mean reversion in them, but when they move, they don't stop, right? And when those, that is that they're really going to move, and when they're going to mean revert is I've never been able to predict it. Just like right here, I'm see it's changing, and so I there could be a shift where we turn back to flattening, and that could change things for what we want to do, right? But I just never had a good handle on that. Not as good of a handle on that as I do what I think the outrights are going to do, right? There was only one time that I really found a piece of information that really was going to predict the spreads, and that was that there was somebody was putting on some sort of a flattening trade back in 2019. And so, you know, we could have taken a spread trade ahead of them. Because end of the day, they are the same securities of the same underlying with different volatility profiles and spreads. You are essentially trading the difference in that volatility profile. Yeah. So they all tend to move in the same direction, just different amounts. Because their amount of volatility that you get in them is different depending on why they're moving. I think the other issue is that I actually, there are some situations where I can kind of predict what it's going to do. Like, I believe that the general trend that we're going to continue to see, is flattening with short periods of aggressive steepening. But overall, treasuries are probably going to continue to flatten until like it's like full-on recession and the Federal Reserve reduces rates, right? But like the exact times when those you know, pullbacks and shifts and everything occur is where I have a really hard time. And maybe if I spent as much time trying to trade the actual spreads as I do the outrights, maybe I would have figured that stuff out. But and the thing that irks me about it is that I've heard so many stories, like my mentor who taught me the most about bonds, I think, he kept telling me this story about there was this educator in the futures space that had a really big room. Like he had like 2,000 people in his room or something like that, and he had them all doing spread trades. And I'm like, well, what could he have possibly, what could possibly have been the basis of that? And then they all like got wiped out in one day. One of those things was like the recession came and the things steepened. I think that it must have been that they were all just going flat, but like, what's the exact strategy, you know? There's got to be a more concise strategy for the spreads that I'm just not aware of. Intraday spread strategies. Like that's the word that I would expect to be searching for on like archive.org or whatever, but I've just never been able to find anything. So if you have one, let me know. You've given me some interesting stuff kind of adjacent to the subject, but we've never quite gotten to here's the spread trade that we should try following. They were probably just going martingaling on mean reversion bet intraday. Maybe. But like that's the thing, is maybe that's not a bad way to do it. Maybe the thing to do is to come in and sell ZN and buy ZB and hope that it works out, and just don't do it during the times when you know that we should be steepening. Because it is true, if you just bet on it mean reverting, it tends to work out that way. That last tick though says it's not flattening, doesn't it? That last tick they steepened a bit. It seems to me like ever since the S&P 500 opened that the treasury market has been kind of aimless. So that was the downtrend kind of stopped just before that was when the low printed in the 10-year at least. Are you saying these things actually because you kind of really wish that you had a spread trading strategy and you don't know what it is either, and you're hoping that I would figure it out? Is that Oh, I told you straight up. I don't remember that. Knob has a reversion bias on 6 months. Oh, well, probably the reason why I said nope is because is that an intraday trade? Can we use that on an intraday basis? Okay, so wait. I think there's a piece missing here. Buy the 2-year and sell the 30. Oh, right, because of that change. So when you say that it has a reversion bias, what is the name of the model that we model that mean reversion with? Is it that Orsten Oblek whatever model? Is that you use one of those? What would I use to model the mean reversion and tell when it's likely to start reverting? I don't like your justification. I don't know. I don't remember this conversation. I tell you what, when I do remember things, I tend to have a really detailed memory, but and if I don't remember, I just don't remember it all. Oh. And OTRs trade with the accrued till the first coupon payment, so dirty price is the clean price. Those both sound like very effective market microstructure justifications for certain stylized behaviors. So if I said that was nonsense, I was wrong. Those sound like very, very good bases for trades. Assuming that we can figure out how those things apply to us in the intraday stuff. Right. So you're saying, yeah. So I think I understand a little bit more. Is that you're not saying like, okay, here's this kind of cycle that it does, and it tends to be every 6 months. Or what you're saying is that on January 1st and June 1st, that those are kind of the two inflection points because of the coupon payments, right? What are the exact dates of the coupon payments? When does the Treasury pay principal and interest on securities? In general, we will pay principal on bills, notes, and bonds on the maturity date as specified in the auction and announcement. Interest on bills consists of the difference between the discount, blah, 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 blah. If any principal or interest payment date is a Saturday, Sunday, or other day on which the Federal Reserve System is not open for business, we'll make the payment without additional interest on the next business day. If the bond is callable, we'll pay a principal prior to maturity if we call it under its terms. Blah, blah, blah. It's the 15th of February? So I believe you, but I want to see an official source so that I can remember that, right? Notes. USIP. There you go. Maturity date 11/15/2032. Issued in January. So wait, how can it be issue date plus 6 months? Because because the auction date is not necessarily the issue date. So is it the case that let's skip February, March. Is it going to be the case that when you do the March auction, that the auction date is going to be in March, but the issue date isn't going to be until 15th of May. Or rather, the issue date wouldn't be until May, and the maturity date would be in May or whatever. How does that work out? Notes are always going to be February 15th and August 15th, though, right? And that would explain why the volatility seems to pick up again in August. But then what is the spread should be doing? It will mean revert until the maturity date, and then after the maturity date it will expand again. The 7-year and below becomes a bit more interesting because they are issued every month. So if we were to do it in the most simple manner, right, it would be like sometime after February 15th, you let it steepen and then you take a flattener on it. Is that the trade? Is like after February 15th, you go flat? Or like, let's draw it out. Yeah, I'm not saying like exactly on February 15th, but like... Come on. There we go. I'm saying on a relative basis, the spread is going to tend to go like this, and then slowly go down, and then go like this, and slowly get down. And this is going to be the seasonality of it. And this right here is going to tend to be... This right here is going to be like Feb and Aug. So sometime shortly after February 15th and that they've rolled and everything, then I would want to go flat. Right. The seasonality is 6 months, but what is... Which point? Isn't that 6 months? So one cycle is 6 months, right? But what I'm asking is, which part of the cycle are they at that February 15th maturity date? Is my image correct, or is it more like, you know, when February comes along, we're at the peak and... The easiest to follow is the cheapest to deliver and model it from the issued. I don't understand what you mean by that. No, let's do it on the micros. I mean, it doesn't have to be the knob. I'm just saying the spread in general. If we plotted the spread, this is what it would look like, right? If I was gonna do it, I would do it in the micros, right? So I'm just gonna translate whatever it is that we say into how would I do it in the micros, right? But I built a pretty decent range here now in the treasuries, kind of towards the bottom end of this. It kind of makes me feel like that eventually they might break it down further, but for the time being, they seem to be stuck in this range. Start with ZN. So we're gonna do ZNZB. Sure. Then earn inverse, whatever you get on that, you should get what the micro 10 should be doing. Sure. So hold up just a second, okay? The trade that we would want to take based on this mean reversion would be going, putting a flattener on, right? Is that correct that you would want to put a flattener on? No. Okay. Is that just asking for your house to be auctioned? I'm not saying you just indiscriminately put a flattener on, but I'm saying when the trade gets put on, it would be on it flattening, no? Or is it that you want to take it on it when it steepens? Is the curve the opposite of what I was saying here? Is it instead of it going like this, it actually goes like this? I wish I knew what was wrong with Epic Pen. It's a sine instead of a cosine, is that right? No, it's a cosine instead of a sine. I Okay. I'm probably getting ahead of you. I'm just gonna be patient and wait to see what you say. We got 20 minutes. You got 20 minutes. Like I said earlier, the basic idea is DV01 is neutral on both legs, so steepening bet or flattening bet is irrelevant. Okay. So you're saying that it could deviate either direction, basically. And when you chart it out, it should look like this, and it doesn't. It looks like this. Yes. Gotcha. So when you were saying, you know, start by modeling the cheapest to deliver, then what I'm really doing is I'm saying, what should the value of this bond be at each of these dates based on the spreadsheets that we've done? And then we look at what the spread has done to make it deviate from that. And we trade it based on it and mean reverting back to that. Yeah. This straight line is cheapest to deliver. or sorry, this straight line is on the run. That deviation could be either someone wanted to roll from 30 years to 10 years. They gonna breach the bottom here? Sure looks like they might do it. So they had temporary demand in the 10 year because of the spike. Right, this is why it tends to mean, because the aberrations that you get tend to be caused by the impact of orders distorting the curve. Okay. Now, because the bonds pay coupon every 6 months, those are the dates around which you can hide the most paper in. So, are you saying that the distortion tends to be the greatest around those dates? So whether it's long or short is irrelevant, but you're saying that the trade is on February 15th, place a bet that it's going to mean revert. Maybe a little bit after that, because the distortion could persist a little bit past that date. In other words, we're expecting this to come down, and it could go this way, or it could go this way, but this tends to be right here. Bad. Oh, it usually builds till those and usually means reverts as they approach. So usually you will have diversion building in the next contract, which reverts when it becomes the front contract. Okay, so the date is here. You're saying that it does this, something like this. And maybe it completely converges after the contract, but the trade is actually right now. The trade is actually right now that it will mean revert going into February 15th. That makes a very difficult trade, though, because of the Federal Reserve timing of the Federal Reserve meeting, doesn't it? So wait, yeah, of course it does. Is it the case right now then that we are too flat? In this particular instance, which is it that we want to take a steepener or a flattener? I'm going to guess that it would be that we're too flat, and then you'd want to take a steepener, just because we've been so flat. You know. Now you're just straight. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm trying to game out the actual practicality of the trade, right? So like, let's just assume for that's correct, and that the trade is you want to take a steepener, right? So
then what can happen in the Federal Reserve meeting that would be good or bad for that trade, right? Well, if the Federal Reserve comes out and is a little bit more on the dovish side, then that trade could like really work out, right? You could get like a huge steepener, and then the flows are going to probably continue to push it into steepening up into February 15th, right? So that would be really good. If we don't have that, then what could happen is Federal Reserve is still very aggressive. We get even more flattening. Maybe you puke the trade, and then afterwards it starts to mean revert. But I don't know if you get, that added uncertainty usually causes larger diversions. Interesting. Okay. But if I'm understanding you correct, step 1 is graph what the on the run treasury should be going into February 15th, right? Just like what the average is going to be based on the using a continuous yield. Or a continuous coupon payment rather than a 6-month coupon payment. Get CTD and OTR. Oh, right. Yes, cheapest to deliver. Right. Yeah, graph the theoretical value given today's interest rate, and a continuous coupon, what they will do going into the coupon payment on the 15th. And the difference between those two is the thing that we're thinking is going to mean revert, right? And then we would have to look at that in the difference between that in the 10-year and the 30-year. So there's actually 4 things that we would want to model. And then based on that, we could determine what the spread is likely to do. Very smart. We could maybe try graphing that on Monday. It's something like 12, but 4 is this day. Yeah. We could try like writing something in Python maybe. This is one of those things where it's like, I wish I had better data sources to just pull the data out. But I'm trying to think of terms that might help us find papers on this, because this sounds like something that almost surely somebody has written a paper about before. No, I wouldn't. Wouldn't it be more fun to do it in Python? I don't know. Maybe not. Probably Excel is more appropriate to start, at least. Yeah, that paper probably got bought out before publication and author are rewarded with a sweet position. I think one of the bigger takeaways that I should really be taking from this, and it's something that we kind of knew, but that the takeaway is that we need to think about this more, is that one of the strongest
market microstructural forces in the treasury market is simply the coupon payments, the date that the coupon payments occur. You know, the like the delivery dates for the futures and like when you roll over for the futures certainly has like an impact on the markets and all of those sorts of things. But one that we don't consider enough is when is the coupon payment? And it happens on February 15th is the next one. Like the reason why that immediately made me go like, is because it's always like that first little bit of the year that's like really, really crazy. And then from like February 15th to May 15th tends to be okay, but not as good. And then I've seen like more crazy action the second half of May, but by the time it gets to June, then it's just like dead. And it doesn't pick up again until August, right? Like the dates that you gave me there all seem to line up with what we've seen from the seasonality of the treasury market. Largely because they almost always are around the roll week, the coupon payment dates. That's primarily the reason for heightened volatility in the roll week. Yes, and also why I always have so much trouble during the roll, right? So everyone kind of glosses over the coupon dates and checks it. That's so interesting. That's really... I'm gonna have to think about this a lot. Like this is gonna be one of those things that like you know, I sleep on it and wake up the next day and I'll have all these thoughts. Because I'm just kind of realizing that these patterns that I've always seen in the seasonality are in fact due to the coupon payments. It's good. Well, it looks like we did move lower. How much did they get here in the 10-year? And did they? Yeah, they continued to steepen. So that little bit of flattening that we saw, like when I started talking about it, that was like all we ever got out of it. And then it kept steepening. And not quite to 7.5, but close. It would have been $25, man. Oh well. If you really want to observe those an action model, the ZT-ZF spread. Yeah. Well, so you were talking about how, you know, it kind of a lot of people talk it down to the roll and everything else. So one of the things that some of the more professional futures traders in the treasuries are going to follow is just like the basis, right? Which is modeling exactly what you're talking about there, right? The futures basis is going to be similar to the basis is basically going to be the basis between the cheapest to deliver and the on the run. So like the treasury tools kind of do that calculation for you. At least they tell you what it is currently. At least I think they give you the basis. See, because when I was watching those webinars that the CME did where they kind of talked about that basis trade sort of a thing, you know, it was always like, oh, okay, but I can't pull up a chart of that basis or any of this sort of stuff, or, you know, so how am I supposed to know which way it's going to go? And I was missing the point, which is that you can create a theoretical graph of those two things and how they're supposed to converge over time. And of course, they will both be affected by changing interest rates, but yeah. So all I've got to do is like, it's not right in real time. It's they do it at fixed intervals. That's one of the things that I find a little frustrating about that, is that there is all sorts of odd. So I'll give you an example of this. The micro treasury yield futures have fixing times. So there are times where they calculate what the actual yield is from the book, from looking at the book. And it happens at specific times. I think that the next time is like 10:45 my time or something like that, right? And so theoretically you should see unusual volume around that time, because that's their algo firm, you know, that is almost surely the primary liquidity provider in this instrument, is probably going to base everything around that one time when it gets fixed, right? But like, you have to dig really deep to find all of that information. The broker tech fixing time. Yeah. So a lot of that information is like, it's there, but nobody tells you that it's significant, and it's kind of hard to find. And so if you're somebody like me, you probably saw it one time, but you didn't understand why it was important. Right? Yeah, it does it 4 times a day. Right. So those numbers that you get on the tool, there are specific times of day where they like recalculate it. But I think that they're different from the fixing times, and that if you dig around in there deep enough, there's somewhere in the tool they tell you how it works. It's not real time. Okay, well, I don't think I'm going to do anything with it this weekend, because I really need to focus on these note cards, but maybe on Monday we can try graphing that. But it's time to go. Let's just come in here on today. I never set a title for yesterday. Maybe I just never will, but options expiration. Well, I wouldn't say that options expiration Friday was a total dud, but there's a decent uptrend in the S&P 500. We're almost up to 3940, which is encouraging. But nothing super crazy. So we got to prepare ourselves for next week. It might get crazy. So I'll see you then. In the meantime, stay excellenting.